This is DMP Kenya, and welcome back to Turning the Mirror podcast. This is where we bring you the reflection of politics and governance across our country, Kenya. And today we are looking into this man, and he's the talk of the town, CJ Maraga. And there are talks that he's going to be in the ballot for 2027 presidential elections.
Yeah.
And he's not said it personally, and it's just rumor. We don't know his stand, his position, and also what is making him a potential candidate. And now Kwach is going to help us look into this man, his potential, and maybe the things that we must see and the things we must consider carefully about him.
Yeah.
Welcome, Kwach.
Thank you. You know, first of all, Maraga is a name that is very common in the Kenyan space.
What makes him common?
Remember, this is the man who, across Africa, he's the first ever Chief Justice or the head of the judiciary arm of government to have ever quashed or dismissed an election, a presidential election. And so with his the bench he led, they dismissed elections of Kenya, the 2017 presidential election results. And you remember that at that specific time, he became known, actually celebrated by those who were supporting NASA coalition then, and actually seen as an enemy by those who were supporting the Jubilee party then. Yeah. So Maraga during that time, actually, if you look at the Western Kenya and Nyanza, you realize that a good number of people at that specific period, those the women who gave birth to kids, the period just around the time Maraga made this judgment, a good number of them actually named their children after David Maraga.
Yeah.
So their children who are called David Maraga, those were born in 2017 after the 2017 elections.
Yeah.
And then we have a man here who has seriously fought for the independence of the judiciary. Remember, Kenya, we have the three arms of government, that is the executive, judiciary, and the legislature. And all these arms of government should be independent and should be working independently. Though they are dependent on one another, but they should be working independently. So remember that during David Maraga's tenure, he tried as much as he could to ensure that there was nothing going on in terms of executive getting into the businesses of the judiciary. And therefore he's someone who stood by the freedoms, rights, and justice. Yeah. And so being firm to that specific area, so the judicial independence, and standing firm to ensure that there was right, trying to ensure that freedoms were respected and all that. So he became a darling to the people. And even those who saw him as an enemy earlier actually also saw him as one man who is trustable enough. And remember, Maraga himself, in many occasions after the 2017, after the re-election, he could miss most of the events, the national events, because you could see that the chair that was put there specifically for the Chief Justice was just there without the Chief Justice sitting on it. So in this case, you realize that the executive was kind of at loggerheads with the judiciary, and therefore he did not find it maybe okay to maybe share a podium with them. So some of the national events, like national holidays, he could miss them. Yeah.
And now we've seen unrest before and recently in the country, and just during the time we have had the Kenya Kwanza government, and also specifically to the Gen Z sect, we've seen them crying out that this government should go home, they're calling for fresh leadership, and a leadership they define to be a leadership of integrity, a leadership that can be accountable to the people of Kenya. And maybe within that conversation is where the name Maraga came in. You find that people calling out that we know this man and we think this person can lead Kenya and can be the next president of Kenya if we gather our support towards him. And you know, it's about politics. And Maraga the person, does he have any history in politics? Has he ever been in politics? You know, politics is about also largely in campaigns. It's about getting to the people, talking to the people in public, trying to convince them to vote you in, and bringing all necessary tools. You know, we have resources we have the people you must allies with, you have people who are running across every region
Yes.
in Kenya, and also you know the nature of Kenyan politics where tribe also plays a role.
Yeah, it's tribe-based, yeah.
And also the people you party with, the alliances you make,
Yeah.
they also play a pivotal role, because you find different regions, they have at least a person they see as their spokesperson,
Yes.
or maybe
The
tribes
kingpin.
call them the kingpin.
Yes.
So you find that a person who gets to align with these people, then they have an upper hand. So how is Maraga positioned for this?
I'd say that, you know, Maraga has not been into the active politics. He has not actually run for an elective position when it comes to politics, but he has been the president of an arm of the government. So he has led the judicial arm of the government, and actually at the helm of the judiciary, he oversaw some of the reforms that some were political, some were independent and were just on human rights, and like he saw a number of several reforms. And therefore, in this process, he might, in one way or the other, and I can say in several occasions, handled some of the political, I'd say political ideologies and political events that can shape his future when it comes to politics if he decides to go for it. Again, remember, just as Dr. Fred Matiang'i and Omtata, they initially did not speak publicly, even if they had it in mind, but none of them had declared publicly that they wanted to run for presidency in 2027. Until the Gen Z protests happened. And after the Gen Z protests, then now the Gen Z, because they were leaderless, tribeless, and all that, were now and partyless. So they were trying to look for a change in leadership, fresh blood, who is a developer and who is someone who can hold justice and can uphold everything that like the rule of law. And this is when now they started mentioning names. And that is how Dr. Fred Matiang'i's name resurfaced back to Kenyan political space. Then we had Omtata, who is a one-term senator, also widely known for his activism. Also the name surfacing as a potential presidential candidate. And then that is how we also got Maraga in, because it's like these young people are looking for someone who is upright, someone who knows how justice is supposed to be, and that is how then the name Maraga came in.
You know, immediately after the Gen Z protest, you know, Maraga's name was not yet there.
Yes.
You find that people were talking, Matiang'i's name was out, and the people were giving out placards trying to speak about Matiang'i, saying how good he has been, but critics came about.
Yes.
There are people saying that he's done this bad, he did this bad, the suppressions.
During his tenure as the CS for Interior, all bodies were found, or what this, that is true.
And also Kia Umtata coming into place, and people throwing critics here and there, and also the Gen Zs, they were still in the wave of trying to find out where is the best direction.
Yes.
And then you find these Gen Zs people who are speaking out, they're calling on Maraga. He hasn't spoken about anything about that. Then they're calling about him, and he is here, and he has not spoken about it yet. Is it that he doesn't have any critics, or maybe there is nothing bad with him that people have to talk about?
What I can
to
say,
also bring him down to find another solution.
What I can say
option.
before I even answer your question is that remember Maraga, after he retired as the CJ, he went silent for some time until Ruto came to power, and then he again resurfaced when he was brought on board to chair a committee which was looking through the police and all the reforms within the police force. And after that, again, when he had just submitted the report, he again went silent. But immediately after the Gen Z protests, and then now when the Gen Z started mentioning names of people they thought could then take the country forward, Maraga started criticizing the government. Not like he could not call the press, like, you know, today it's not the analog way that you had to call the press to criticize the government. Today people also do it online. So I can just tell you to go check on the X handle of Maraga, X handle, formerly Twitter. Go check on that handle. And you'll realize that every excesses of the Ruto's government after the Gen Z protests, Maraga spoke about it. So in one way, he was criticizing or trying to offer a solution. And he has been so vocal that even today, after speaking about the death of the former IBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, he again spoke about other things that are of human interest, the public interest, and also the interest of the politicians. And remember that by doing that, maybe, you know, when he was silent, he was maybe a beast who was sleeping. And remember, out of sight, out of mind. So when he was silent, many people could not remember or think of, oh, Maraga is there and he had done A, B, C, D. So when he resurfaced and started now criticizing the government through his X handle, then people started seeing something and started remembering what he had done and what he stood for when he was the head of judiciary. And so that is how people started calling him to come. And then we started seeing maybe people affiliated to either of the candidates trying to drag him to work closer with the candidate. So remember Maraga, there's the team Matiang'i who would also want Maraga to be part of it because of the good name Maraga has. There's team Omtata. We've seen posters going around with Omtata and Maraga on the same poster. Then there's also the team Gashagwa, the team Kalonzo Musyoka, and then we have the team Ruto. But now here, the main question that you've asked is about resources. You know, you can never know someone's potential when it comes to resource mobilization before they're out there to campaign. Again, if you are the candidate of the people, if you are somebody who the people, like you didn't have it in mind, but then the people are pushing you to do it, then your campaigns will not majorly be based on resource from your end, because then the campaign will be based on the people themselves. So you'll realize that the people will be selling and trying to spread the message amongst themselves using all the mediums and the media as possible. And the people themselves could even contribute. Remember during the Gen Z protests, when the young men were getting injured and people were in hospital and then bills were supposed to be settled, these people came together without a single structure. And people were collecting money. I know even you contributed. And people collected money, and then this money was used to bail out the young people who were injured and all that. So remember, if people are out there and very serious to a cause, then it becomes easier for the candidate they are pushing. So if at all Maraga comes out as the candidate of the people, then he would be a very big threat, because then his image is not tainted at all. And it, like, fighting him will not be easy, because maybe you'd fight him as a non-starter, which then many people would not even want to hear, because remember, most of the politicians who have put us in where we are today are the very politicians who have been in the space since the Moi era. So people want a fresh blood. So when you talk about a non-starter, then people would not even be listening to you. So some of the areas that maybe people would use to fight him are still not there. But of course, politicians are very serious people and very wise people, so they might look for other propaganda to try and taint his image. But as it stands, Maraga's image is not tainted. And we also saw young people, young activists visit him. These are young activists, a group which has visited Omtata, a group which now again went to visit Maraga, and this is a group which has been pushing for change. And so through that tells you something, that the young people either saw something in him and so went and visited him, or he's serious about what is going on online, about his candidature, and so decided to call upon the young people to come, because many people in the 2027 general election, many people are looking at the young, the voting block of the young people, the Gen Z, the millennial, and all that. Those who are 16 years of age now, going upwards, because by the time will be reaching 2027, they'll be now 18 years of age and would be eligible to vote.
Sure, you know that Maraga has not been in the political space, and therefore maybe if he had vied for an MP position and been in the Senate or a member of parliament or a governor, we could have learned a lot out of his politics and also his principles and his ideologies. But now it means we have a lot to know about him.
Yeah.
But the conversation keeps going, that people are speaking about him as a a potential president, because we know that the young people are demanding for fresh blood, a person who can be accountable to the people of Kenya, who can bring the institutions back to their integrity and ensure that Kenya is in place.
Yeah.
And also to our audience, you can share your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you supporting Maraga or not? Or who is your preferred candidate? And what could you tell Maraga if you had a chance to? And thank you so much. And ensure you subscribe to DMP Kenya and like this video and share if you can share it with a friend, or maybe share the information with people you love. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll leave you and actually our audience by saying that actually most of those who have delivered across the globe, most of those who have delivered in terms of development, justice and all that, are not politicians, but leaders.
Okay, sure.
Some of them didn't actually have the experience to lead. Look at somebody like Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. He didn't have that political background,
Sure.
but he's trying to deliver. Again, for you to see, in as much as Mtata has not spoken about his candidature, but then his candidature is being felt across the political divide, it means there's something.
Yeah.
And I don't want to call it just rumors. My name is Kwai.
Thank you.